Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP one-shot build for Vex in Borderlands 4. This will be through levels 1 through 50 and I'll show you all the best choices and able to make this character pretty much immortal. We're going to be going with a bleed build here because it's just super powerful. You can see there, we can one-shot pretty much everything, and you see there are chained shots are going around taking out even more enemies. This is extremely powerful, it keeps you alive infinitely, and we can take out enemies very fast. We'll be using the Incarnate skill tree here, giving us Eldritch Blast, but this build's mostly around kinetic damage. So we want to have at least 2 kinetic guns here because whenever we're attuned to a kinetic, we're going to get additional lifesteal. And this goes all the way down to the end of this here where we can get a ton of lifesteal. Basically, anytime we're shooting an enemy, we're keeping our health bar full. And with a bunch of other augments, we can actually make this very strong. We're going to have 28 skill points in the Vexcalation build here, 16 in the 4th seal, and 5 of them are going to be in Here Comes Trouble. Now we can do this with or without gear, but something that works extremely well together is utilizing this throwing knife here that can apply critical hits on the target for 5 seconds after hitting them, and then using something like this will trigger Bloodshot, which heals us. Basically, we become immortal with this, and the damage is out of this world. You can one-shot bosses with this. And if you got 3 of the high caliber items here, this will give you bullets will pierce enemies, which makes us even stronger, and then we also got a boost to overall critical hit damage. Pairing this with some items that are going to ricochet projectiles at multiple targets, we can take down multiple enemies quickly, and this just has a lot of synergy with a lot of other items as well. Again, this build is extremely effective. I've used it through leveling. Even if you don't have all that gear, it doesn't really matter, but I'll take you through the leveling from level 1 here. Now, leeching attunement is kind of a core principle of this build. So whenever we are attuned to kinetic, so that means that we have a kinetic-based weapon out within the last 6 seconds, we'll gain increased lifesteal and reload speed. So we're going to max this out because that 10% lifesteal is really nice to have. So every time that we have a kinetic bullet, basically we're going to be applying a ton of damage. Now, this gives us our first augment here. I like that between the two of these, Geist Wave can give you a explosion and deal ordnance damage, which is your grenade damage. But I honestly think that the energy vampire here is better because this will give you overshield as well, which increases your survivability quite a bit in the early game. Now, levels 5 through 10, we're going to take the Bloodletter. So gun and skill critical hits will have a chance to apply bleed, causing kinetic status effect damage. Now, we can trigger this a lot quicker with some other items later on in the game, but for early game, this is great damage. So this has a 50% chance, and it deals 6% of gun damage per second, which can boost it all the way up to 30%. And the duration is 4 seconds. You can have 20 stacks of this on enemy. This is how you shred down bosses really quickly, is just going for critical hits to apply the bleed. And once we get through this part of the skill tree, we're next going to go down and take the material component. So Vex gains increased kinetic damage and kinetic status effect damage, which is our bleed. So this obviously is important because that's an extra 35% damage, huge boost to overall damage. We're gonna get a lot more boosts, which you'll see. But also the target precision or pre-science here gives you the ability to get critical hits on just normal attacks, which is also really nice. In addition, Grave Power can increase our kill skills, and there's actually quite a few kill skills. We're not going to take them though, because this build actually utilizes some other strategies. So now we get access to some of the better augments here, with Grave Harvest being my new choice once you get down to this level. So killing an enemy with the Incarnate active will spawn a Soul Orb, which you can use at press E to detonate the Soul Orb. Doing ordnance damage and picking up a Soul Orb will restore your health and action skill duration. So this is going to be good just to extend our overall skill tree time. Now we got from our class mod a +4 here, which will give us maximum health capacity, which increases overall health and health regeneration once we get a kill. This can be pretty nice. 10 stacks actually gives you quite a bit of extra health to work with. This can be good. However, I also like the Ars Arcana here, which will give you increased skill damage, as we're going to want to use the Heartpiercer here, which will sacrifice our health, and we can kind of keep stealing our health back, and this becomes really powerful, increasing the overall damage. However, if you want to really make yourself pretty much unkillable, we can spec into this here, which will give us a huge amount of extra damage. We get an extra 90% to our health, which obviously is important when we're doing a lot of lifesteal. Now, once we get down to this level, we get Bloodshot. Now, Bloodshot is very good. So when Vex uses a Repkit, her next gunshot will become a Bloodshot, converting damage dealt into kinetic damage and dealing bonus damage based on her current health. We want to max this one out as soon as possible just because it's super useful. However, we can also gain lifesteal from this one here. So it's really dependent if you want to take this one here, because if you don't have a good rep kit, like I like to use the rep kits that give you increased, have like 3 charges, for example, because this will give you a boost to your overall damage. If you don't have that, I would actually recommend going with the Essence Leech here, which will give you another 10% lifesteal. So you got lots of lifesteal between these two, keeps you alive. And then we get to take our Heartpiercer Capstone. So what this does is basically when we use our Eldritch Blast, it's going to chain out to multiple enemies, and they'll take damage, allies hit, restore health, and gains bonus damage and healing based on sacrificed health. So this takes away the cooldown, so you can use Eldritch Blast whenever you want to, and it's going to give you a health sacrifice, 20% of your maximum health, and then you'll restore 4,747 health, and the bonus damage is 150% of your sacrifice health. So you can actually do quite a bit of damage utilizing this. And then once we get down here, we get the Blood is Power. Vex gains bonus kinetic damage when with her guns based on her current lifesteal when her health is full. So yeah, you get a lot of extra damage with this. So bonus kinetic damage, 300% of your lifesteal. Huge boost to your damage. Blood is Power. It's just insane the amount of damage that we deal with that. Next, it's actually good to go into the Here Comes Trouble skill tree because Vex gains bonus kinetic damage when guns with her active skill, when her skill is active. So with this, again, whenever we're in our incarnate form, we're going to do 37.5% more damage, which is crazy. You typically want to run at least 2 kinetic weapons or 3, and this just gives us a big boost to our damage. And finally, we're going to come into the 4th seal skill tree here because we got some good ones. So Vex and her minions gain reload speed based on the fullness of her health. This one's just good to have because we're going to typically have our health pretty full. And getting that increased reload speed just means we can put damage out a lot quicker. So I like to go with that and then take a couple points here because increased gun damage, everyone can benefit from this. And then once we get down here, we're going to go with the Portents of Suffering. So increased status effect damage, which is kinetic damage now because we have this skill tree here, which is affected by the status effect. And it's considered a status effect. So this will actually boost up our overall damage. 7% per skill tree point is nice. And the other two aren't really that great. So we're going to go with this one here, giving us that 35% extra status effect damage. And then we're going to come down here, kill skill. We get an action skill cooldown rate. This one's pretty useful. The other ones here are mostly for her minions. So this one actually will give us a pretty nice boost because every time that we get a kill skill, we have 3 stacks and increase our action skill cooldown rate by 17.5% per stack. So if you get 3 kills, that's boosting it quite a bit. And this makes it so that we can use our skill trees so much more often. And with our last skill point, we can actually take the Prismatic Ichor here. So whenever you apply a status effect, again, bleed, apply another random status effect, 30% of the initial status effect for 2 seconds. We may as well just take this because that's a nice little boost to overall damage because we're going to be applying a lot of statuses. So again, going through the skill tree here, we're going to go all the way down there. You can just go through and see this over. And this works very well because pairing it with a class mod like the Undead Eye, so killing an enemy with a sniper rifle will trigger Bloodshot. Critically hitting an enemy with a sniper rifle has a 33% chance to trigger the Bloodshot, which restores your health and deals massive amounts of damage. In addition to this one in particular was really great roll. So this gives a plus 40% kinetic damage and plus 45% sniper rifle damage. So you want to have a kinetic sniper rifle because the damage is crazy, especially with a sniper rifle like this, which can home in on targets. And yeah, it does a lot of damage. But I prefer to go with like a Jacobs one that's going to go for headshots. But yeah, with 3 points of high caliber, this gives your projectile speed plus 25%, gun damage plus 10%, and bullets can pierce enemies, which is huge because sometimes you can line up multiple critical hits on enemies, and it gets pretty crazy. If you remember from Borderlands 2, Zero's build, they used to be able to do some crazy stuff with bullet piercing. It's very powerful. Now, alongside this, I like to have really the best available shield you can get. This one is going to increase our overall damage, and it does missiles that burst out. But it just depends. I like the Onion Shield as well when you get to the late game. I would not recommend the Timekeeper's New Shield. It's all coming together. Nice meme. But any of the Onion Shields that are going to give you damage reduction is going to be great. This one does missiles that home in on enemies when you kill an enemy, doing 7,000 damage. So this one further increases our overall offense. Now, I also like to go with something that's going to, I think the best augment or the best enhancement here are the ones for the Jacob guns. So this one will make it so that if you have a Jacob's license part, which I have on like these guns here, you can see the Jacob's critical hits will ricochet to multiple enemies. So if critical hits will bounce to another target, which becomes pretty crazy. I also post an aim-on build where this can actually go crazy on a exploding gun. But this will make it so that non-critical hits have a 40% chance to ricochet. And guns with a Jacob's license part grant consecutive critical hits stacking a plus 5% damage maximum stack. So getting crits will actually boost up our damage quite a bit. And then also we got a chance of non-critical hits bouncing around to multiple enemies. Shotgun damage is increased by 38%. And the Hot Slugger is a really good shotgun here, but we'll get to that in the weapons. And gun status effect chances increased by 25%. So pretty, I mean, you can mix that around. It also gives us the Dead Eye, gives us increased critical hit damage by 25%. That's great too. And then it really depends what you want. So this one here, on use grid damage boost of 200% on your next shot. So you can actually make your shots actually just basically one shot. Now, one that's a little bit better I don't have on this character at the moment is the 3 charge healing item that you can get. And it has amp on it as well. So you can charge yourself up and boost your damage shot by 200% 3 times in quick succession. Huge damage. Now for guns. The Hot Slugger is probably the best shotgun. On kill creates a plus 30% damage for 10 seconds max. So you can get a plus 90 to your damage. And that's crazy. Also, I like this one here. So this gun is actually great because it'll chain to multiple enemies on critical hits. And if you zoom it in, increases damage by 100%. That makes it shoot very high damage bullets. Superconducting plasma coil, one of the best weapons in the game. The shock is so useful on if there's enemies with shields because it shoots out a burst of like 5 bullets and they hit hard. Now the eviscerating stray is a pretty good sniper rifle, but honestly, go for the best available that you got. There's a lot of sniper rifles that can fit this build. And as for specializations, I like the one here that grants increased damage dealt based on the fullness of our health or shield. So plus 30% damage when you got full health, and we got lifesteal. We're doing a lot of extra damage. Really, with this is great because you get a plus 50% damage every time that you deal gun damage. This stacks up. One shot, one kill. Excess damage will be stored and add to your next gunshot, as we're going to do some really high damage attacks. And also, critical hits grant stats effect application chance, so applying our bleed. There's a lot of really good ones here that you can also apply. I also like the now with caffeine, and if you have, again, that healing pack that has 3 charges, you can basically refresh your skill cooldown rate with using this. It's pretty crazy. Action skill damage now benefits to increases the gun damage is also nice. I am a gun, so you could go with the Daredevil feat here and actually get some pretty effective abilities here, but I like to roll with these ones. And then putting it all together. So this sniper rifle here will automatically home in on enemies. You can see there the bullets will go around, and you see the green there? It's actually just going around and killing everybody near us. The damage is insane with a gun like this, and you don't even really have to aim because it'll automatically aim, and you see there the bullets are flying around from enemy. It's crazy, and that's not even using our grenades or our heals either to further set up the damage. Yeah, that was really quick. It's effective against pretty much everything in the game because, yeah, you don't have to aim with this build, and then your bullets will go around leeching and finding other targets. Also with the shotgun, you can actually do quite a bit of damage because if you hit a target with your grenade, that's going to make critical hits off of them. It just works really well. So, yeah, you don't have to do a whole lot to make this build powerful. As you can see, it's already just shredding through enemies, and yeah, this works all the way through to the Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. It's crazy how much damage this build can do. I'm actually shocked. This may end up getting patched because, as you can see here, even using an assault rifle with the Jacob's part makes it chain around, which is super useful. You barely even have to pay attention when you're playing, and yeah, with a shotgun or a sniper rifle, the damage output's nuts. I would recommend using a sniper rifle, especially this one here, just because it aims at people automatically. And that's even before we talk about using our Eldritch Blasts either, which also do a lot of damage. So if you go into your action skill here, it's going to sacrifice your health to do the damage, but that's great because when you shoot that around, you can heal your teammates, and on top of it, it's also going to take out most enemies. Even though you do take out your health, the best part about this is you got infinite health pretty much, because you see our health is going down. But as long as we're shooting, we're recovering our health, and we don't even have to aim again because this is just going to automatically hit targets. It becomes nuts. You don't really have to think too much. Like, I'm literally just playing it pretty easily here. This is also really great against flyers because every time you get a critical hit, it's just going to chain around to multiple enemies here. So yeah, this can take care of enemies much quicker than the Dead Ringer build that I've covered before. All things considered, this build has so much synergy between the different items and gear, but again, even from the start, it's going to be pretty powerful because you can just regenerate your health endlessly. So that is a very powerful OP build for Vex in Borderlands 4 from levels 1 through level 50. Let me know what kind of content you want to see next for Borderlands 4. Hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you all in the next video.